It's Divas That Care Radio. Stories, strategies, and ideas to inspire positive change. Welcome to Divas That Care, a network of women committed to making our world a better place for everyone. This is a global movement for women, by women, engaged in a collaborative effort to create a better world for future generations. To find out more about the movement, visit divasthatcare.com after the show. Right now, though, stay tuned for another jolt of inspiration.
Welcome to Confidence in Bloom, where bold women rise, shine, and own their power. We all face that pesky inner critic, what I call the itty-bitty shitty committee, whispering self-sabotaging doubts and untrue trash talk that holds us back. Here, we don't let that noise win. This is a space to celebrate the fierce, fabulous women who have broken free from fear, crushing limiting beliefs, and stepped into their full, unstoppable selves. Because let's be real, the most powerful thing any woman can wear is her confidence. I'm Tina Spoletini, your host with the Divas That Care Network, and I will bring you real stories from whom reclaimed their voice, embraced their worth, and are lighting the way for all of us. Ready to bloom into your best self? Let's dive in. Today I'm chatting with Michaela Foulkes. Michaela is an internationally respected fat loss and fitness coach. Since 1999, she has had extensive backgrounds in massage therapy, kettlebell instruction, cellular nutrition, intermittent fasting, slightly extended fasting, 36 to 48 hours, and in pain management and prevention. Through her programs, coaching, speaking, writing, and ebook, Power and Pain, Michaela helps women and men over 40 lose weight easily when they've thought it impossible, or create robust health when they thought feeling old was inevitable. Welcome, Michaela.
Thank you.
I am super excited to talk about everything that you do and whatever you're willing to share with us about what you know. I'm going to get right into your story. What has inspired you to dive so deeply into fat loss, pain prevention, and cellular health?
Oh my God, as I cry. Honestly, I think both, it's like, I guess, two sides of the same coin, which is to not feel powerless and to also feel free. And so I am someone who just, I don't like limits. And so it's like, the assumed kind of agreed upon assumptions, just getting old, or, that of course you can't do this after blah, blah, blah age. Like that is just like a knife in my heart. And so that's something, it's like, I feel like the body is so logical. And so there's a black and whiteness as far as my experience has gone. That it's like, if you understand a bit about what you want to have, it's just easier to make decisions that help you to have what you want. And then I'll say the fat loss piece definitely was all around my struggles with emotional eating. And so my whole thing was, how do you behave badly and not look like it? Honestly, like, how do you feel like shit, but not look like shit? And so it was just like, so for me, I was always just like looking for the next diet, the next workout approach. And I was just my own living laboratory and like test product. And I just went through enough to the degree that I kind of found something that was like, oh, this is so forgiving. Like, this is so flexible. But really, it was both not wanting to feel limited and also feeling like I don't want to be kicked when I'm down. Like, how do I create a sense of freedom in my body physically? And then also, how do I create a sense of like forgiveness when I'm pretty like compromised emotionally, really?
Right. And so now that's where my brain is going, that's where the getting older comes in, right? Because when we look back at our 20s, right? I remember being able to go out till all hours of the night, go home, have 2 or 3 hours of sleep, get up and start again, right? Whatever that day meant for me, and not really looking or feeling like I'd been beaten up. Now, this weekend, like now in my life, in my 50s, I'm like, if I don't get my 10 hours of rest, and that includes like, the unwinding time on the couch in front of the TV, to going to bed and getting 6 to 8 hours of sleep, you can tell, like anybody can tell that I have been I didn't get my rest, right? I can tell. I look in the mirror and I go, oh my God, you look like hell. Right now, if I can see that in myself, I'm sure the world sees that. And that, I'm assuming, is what you mean by finding that power within, right? Is you no longer feel that, or it's not as obvious.
Well, actually, no, because I do believe that like time, like we have an expiration date, right? It's like everything is not the same from day one to day, like 1,000, whatever the heck it might be, like however that goes,
Right.
regarding years. But so for me, with just addressing that, what I like is that I think that age, time should be a consideration, but not the full story. But regarding, I'll just say, that piece of like freedom, my initial career was as a massage therapist. And so for me, I learned a lot about pain. And I learned about the fact that, or figured out, which wasn't so obvious for most people, which is crazy to me, is that physical pain, muscular pain typically comes from weakness. And so it's like, it's not a mystery, you don't have shitty luck. It's like, it's either a matter of position, posture, or strength. And so it's like, if you're good in one, you can get away with not being fantastic with the other. So you can have this slumped over state if you have a stronger back, or if you have great posture, you can be weaker in your lower back and not bear the brunt of discomfort. So I think, to me, that's where that kind of logic, black and white, because the thing that was so crazy, pain, muscular pain, is not dependent on any age. So I would see people in every decade telling me that they're old because their lower back hurts. And it's like, or because I threw my lower back out by picking up a piece of paper across the desk. And it's like, you just have shitty form and weakness. And that's it. And so that really was the initial driver. But to answer your real question, is I think that we do change, but if we understand what's changing and then how to offset that, how to mitigate the impact. I can't stay out all night, you know what I mean? And have a bunch of alcohol and feel like I did in my 20s either. But if we understand how to, I'm all about how to have your cake and eat it too. So it's like, if we understand that using activated charcoal is something that helps get toxins out of our body faster, or that using vitamin C is something that actually blocks the like metabolite that speeds up aging with alcohol, or if we understand that electrolytes are something that'll help us to not be dehydrated and then like hungry for crappy food the next day. It's like we just give ourselves a better chance to kind of like get away with this stuff that we could without like any thought when we were younger.
Right. Now, my questions are actually coming at me like in so many different directions just from that, one comment that you made there. So I'm gonna try to stick to what I planned, only because I honestly, I could open up like many rabbit holes, right? Just from there, right? Because I've heard of activated charcoal, not for the body, like not physical, like not for something that I could digest, or, a human could. So I want to come back to that because I'm a little bit curious. But now, Okay, so as we get older, I mean, you've already said our bodies change. Where, even though our cells are constantly um, regenerating, they're generating with what they already have. So this is how we know that disease is created when we're regenerating. Like our cells are regenerating with the garbage in our body. That's how we end up with disease and other illness, right? Am I right? Would you say that that's kind of where I'm?
I think I say kind of, in the sense that my understanding is, so degeneration, that's typically what we're talking about. So like, having, whether it's arthritis or asthma or cancer, or heart disease, it tends to be this kind of erosion. And so I would think more about the fact that the cells just don't have what they need in order to protect themselves, rebuild themselves optimally. And that's where things like, I'm such a fan of talking about cellular nutrition, really high caliber, high quality vitamins and minerals. Like those are the tools and the materials that we don't really get from our food. Plus, we have these additional stressors, whether that is literally stress or environmental stressors. So to your point, if we're rebuilding ourselves with something that's subpar, slash my words, which is like, we don't have what we need. So then we have these non-robust cells, these cells that are kind of, performing more poorly through time. That's when I believe we're more susceptible to, looking old, feeling old, contracting, or developing really some sort of degenerative disease, which really is something that happens slowly and over time.
Right. Okay. Okay. So now let's go into like weight loss.
Yeah.
Now, many of our listeners are women, and many are over 40, and they feel like their bodies have like changed in some way. Why do we feel like weight loss is harder after 40? And I mean, I used to hear that as a child, right? Because I've always had to lose weight. And I remember everyone around me would always say, as you get older, it's going to be harder to lose. Really, is that true? And there's some myth in that. I believe, in your opinion, what are most people getting wrong about this weight loss industry?
So I love that you think that, and that it's not just like a given. So I think that some of the things that, again, that I believe to be true are like our hormones do change. Um, I think that, and then there's stuff that's kind of time dependent. So, meaning that in so many respects, I feel like age is simply an accumulation of time doing certain things. So, because we're 40, like I do believe, and I will say, exactly why women's bodies are different after 40. I am not 100% the expert, but so I kind of know like how to do it, meaning that it's like, I know how to help women's metabolism be higher. Like I know how to help women preserve their muscle and build it. I know how to have women help, access their own fat for fuel, and once again, not break their muscle down in the effort to lose weight. Um, and I understand how to, what do I want to say? Like, I would say help with like estrogen balance, to a degree, testosterone, support as well. So I kind of know about all the things that help weight loss, period. And then it's like, oh, why is this different after 40? And I think for some of us, it's not so different because of how supported we are. So I think that when we have either, like there's a what do I want to say? And an agreed upon assumption, like we just gain weight every year. We just have this, kind of slow build through time. And it's like, well, if we keep doing things that are either kind of like metabolically compromising, maybe that's the food that we eat, maybe that's how we live, how active we are, how active we're not. Maybe that's, you know, the fact that we have lost some muscle, and that doesn't necessarily happen just because like our hormones are different. It's less advantageous as we get older, but we still might not be doing things to help build muscle, maintain muscle mass. So I really feel like it's a bit of nature and it's a bit of nurture. So I personally think that you know, it's a less ideal situation. And so again, like I do not have the scientific background or personal study. It's like, does our metabolism slightly adjust down? But is that also a result of, again, compromising foods, the amount of sleep that we're getting, how we're situated to burn which kind of fuel? Like, so I think that is less advantageous as we get older. But I also think that if we've done a lot of things that are not advantageous through time, we will have a more challenging situation that's once again less forgiving.
Right. So it's really about lifestyle from beginning to end.
In general,
Yeah.
In general. And I think that that's, again, that's like the, you know, one side of the coin, which is like freedom. It's like, oh, wow, like I have so much choice. Like, it doesn't mean that I just think about these things and they happen. Like, I actually have to do something. But it's like, well, I classify something as like the holy trinity of health. And so it's like diet, exercise, like high quality, like vitamins and minerals. And so it's like, and it's so simple and it's constant. And so it's like you do need to eat in a particular way that would be most supportive in general, like having some sort of physical activity, like with some consistency, like yes, and then like simplest thing in the world, like taking a few tablets a day. And so it is very straightforward, but it's constant. But it's simple. So yes, absolutely. Lifestyle, like number one.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that. I do get that. Now in your bio, you mentioned a little bit about biochondria or mitochondria. I always say
Oh,
that word
yeah.
wrong. So let's talk about mitochondrial reconstruction. First of all, can you maybe explain what that is in plain terms, and why is it the key to losing fat fast and aging? And well, I guess reverse aging. Does that sound right? Is that what you would call it? I don't know. I don't
Maybe
know.
reversing,
Yeah.
slowing for sure.
Okay.
So the mitochondria, they're the so in our cells, we have all these little, they're called organelles. And so basically it's like if we think of our body, we have organs, cells have organelles. So excuse me, so they have little parts of them that do different things, right? Like our lungs do something different than our liver does. So our mitochondria are the energy producing unit of our cell. They're the things that create energy. And so essentially, what I help people do is we've evolved to burn fat. So simpler organisms, single cell organisms can only burn sugar. We're made to burn sugar and fat. And so we evolved to burn fat to survive. Because if we could not store energy, we would need to have access to food kind of constantly. And that's not how our world works for humans. So we've evolved to burn fat to essentially store energy for times when we didn't have access to food. So when you basically, the process that I help take people through is both with an element of I don't want to say calorie, carbohydrate reduction, but also an increase in insulin sensitivity. But in that process, the body has to build new mitochondria or fix the energy producing unit of the cell to be able to access our fat for energy. And so essentially, what that does is it enables you to use your own fat for fuel. So if we only give ourselves, most people in our culture are very good at burning sugar, very good at burning sugar, very good at storing fat, not so great at getting into that fat later. So essentially, if you have more mitochondria that have the ability, it's really to flip back and forth because it's easy to burn sugar, but it's more challenging to burn fat. But we're made to burn both. And so if you can burn fat well, you can always burn sugar. It's like not an issue at all. But if you can burn sugar, it's not a guarantee that you can burn fat. Anyway, so when you get situated to have mitochondria that are capable of accessing your own fat for fuel, this is natural. We're all made to do this. Then essentially you have energy at your disposal. But the thing regarding, and I hope I'm answering the question, the thing that talked about reverse aging, or I think about, actually that can get into fasting. But when you're set up to use your own fat for fuel, the nature of that means that you are less hungry, which means that you don't need to eat as often. And one thing that I think is a really good, useful awareness for people when they're kind of deciding maybe how they might want to approach either improved health, increased longevity, weight loss. Every time we eat, we're giving our cells the instruction to divide. Each cell only has so many divisions until it's dead. If people that are focused on longevity tend to have an awareness about something called telomeres, which are like these little protective caps that are at the ends of our DNA. And essentially the length of your telomeres indicates the lifespan that you have remaining. So every time we tell our cells to divide, whether we actually need that or not, we're just speeding up this shortening of our telomeres. But when we go for longer stretches without food, we don't have that same instruction. And then we have the double benefit of our body actually being able to repair itself, heal things, protect us. There's something called apoptosis, which means cell death. But basically, it's like you give your cells the bandwidth to do more things. And so you're slowing aging by not speeding up this race to the end. And your body is able to do also something called, I'm forgetting the name right now. Basically, it's cellular rejuvenation. But essentially, it's like the cells, again, have the bandwidth to clean themselves up, to fix themselves, to protect, to shut down cells that are a threat. And so basically, it's like the nature of that state, your mitochondria being able to burn fat enables you at the very least, bottom level, to not eat as often, to protect your muscle, to have easy access to kind of endless energy, and then to not race to speed up aging with this instruction to keep having our cells divide, because every time we eat, that is the nature of what happens.
Right. And so when I'm now, what's coming to my mind is, what is the best way of making this like process at its highest, at its most powerful, like positively? Is it through food and nutrition and supplements, or is it like everything? Like, I mean, because our five senses all feed our body, right? And so our cells, I mean, that's part of the body. So is that what that means? Like this rejuvenation, cellular rejuvenation, or whatever we called it, is it like everything has a part of that, right? Because these are now our tissues. We're talking about everything that's within our body. So am I understanding that right? Like, it's not just about food and supplements like vitamins. There's more to it than just, because it sounds like, I mean, the way you explained it, it's kind of difficult. Like, it sounds like a difficult process.
It's I guess it's a little specific, but it's not, but it's natural. Like, I think that's the biggest thing that, like, so again, so my kind of template, it takes like 9 to 10 days to get the body into a fat burning mode. And what that means is you've created the machinery for your body to comfortably use your own body fat for fuel. So it is a little bit of a process, but I'll say, so to your question, there really are, so I'll say regarding, like, again, getting your body into the state and staying there, there's 5 parts. And so diet is definitely number one. But even within diet, timing matters. So I'll say, so every time we eat, our cells have the instruction to divide. So what's the opposite of that? We eat less often. But we do that in my world, we do that when the body is comfortable, when it's not hungry. Like, that makes sense to not eat when we're not hungry. Um, Additionally, when you have this new wiring, you don't have cravings. Typically, people crave sweet or starchy carbs. So that's sugar. And so once again, it's like, so now you have this wiring that doesn't make you clamor for donuts or ice cream. And that doesn't mean that stuff is not delicious and that we don't hold into it anymore. We don't need to run on it anymore. Um, and then additionally, I'll say exercise is an element. And I think this is something that's the fastest way to get out of a fat burning mode is through exercise. The fastest way to flip your body back to burning sugar is to do something intense. And so the nature, and I'll go through these other 3 things, basically we're made to burn sugar and fat is meant for like everyday use, constant energy. We're walking around, we're, folding laundry, we're at our desk. Sugar is meant for sprinting, fight or flight. So we want that access to quick energy, but we don't always need access to quick energy. So if you want to reliably tap into fat, regardless of where you are metabolically, doing something that is slower, longer, even potentially walking is phenomenal. And so we can still do all kinds of exercise. We can even do sprinting stuff and stay in a fat burning mode if that's where we've started, lifting weights, swimming, whatever the heck we want to do. But if we do something too intense, too long, potentially even, it's very easy to flip into a sugar burning mode, or to deepen it. So that's number 2. Number 3 is sleep. And so this is something where essentially we want to get at least 7 hours of sleep. And so when we do that, we reset certain hormones that support our thyroid gland. And our thyroid gland is very consequential for our metabolism. Additionally, I think something, just to totally drown us in information, something that I think is really useful is to think about having a window between when we stop eating and when we go to bed. And so this is another, hormones are super consequential in all of this. So if we have 2 to 3 hours, 4 would be amazing. 5 could totally work. 6, we tend to get hungry again. So if we have some margin, what this will do is it'll have insulin be out of our system. That comes whenever we eat anything besides just fat. We're not typically just eating butter or oil. Insulin will come along for the ride to move glucose, to store fat, should we be eating particular things or eating in excess. But then once that's out of our system and we go to bed, then we can have human growth hormone come in like ideal amounts, which helps with weight loss, which helps with testosterone levels. So we both want 7 hours, and then ideally we're having quality sleep. And that's when human growth hormone can like come in full effect. We need to be in deep sleep for human growth hormone to get released. So the more cycles of REM we have, the more opportunities we have to experience human growth hormone being high in our body. The last two, one is stress. Essentially, stress, cortisol, adrenaline, those are all sugar burning hormones. And this is actually something that I think is really, this is so long winded. This is not concise. This is so hopeful. So stress is part of life, right? Like we have near accidents, like something happens to our child, we've got, oh my God, this bad news, from work, whatever. So stress hormones, I just think this is so liberating. Basically, they raise blood sugar. And so what typically happens, why we have the understanding that, stress, cortisol stores belly fat. Okay, we don't want that, right? We don't want high levels of cortisol, which comes from stress that stores belly fat. But the deal is that cortisol is there to give us access to energy because our more primitive brain sees stress as a threat, as a danger. So what do we need to physically do to get away from that? We need to run, we need to fight. So what's so useful is whenever you feel a pop of stress, this surge of cortisol or adrenaline, move your body. So even if that's like I am in bed and I'm having this panic about tomorrow, this is what I do. Like flutter my legs, I squeeze my butt cheeks, I do something like in the car, like drum your feet on the ground, like, pump your arms, do jumping jacks, do squats. But if you use that energy, then it doesn't get stored. So stress will come.
I love this.
Right?
Yeah.
And like so this is like,
I mean, okay, so I'm going to throw this out there. That seems like common sense. Like right? Now that you say it, because your body tells you, you need like do something right now. Right. And sometimes I know myself, like sometimes I'll like clench my arms and kind of go, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. Right. But the reality is like, yeah, like I could see that, like you're laying in bed and all of a sudden you get this a little bit of anxiety because, oh my God, tomorrow I have that big meeting and, I'm not prepared or I'm, I don't feel like I want to be there or whatever. I mean, it could be, a million different things. But it makes sense, right? Like your body wants to do something with that. And instead of just allowing it to flow through you, like if you give it something, like do something, then that burns calories, clenching your body, right? Like there's lots of meditations that do that. Oh my gosh, I love that.
Isn't that amazing? So this is the stuff that I totally thrill in, which is like the body is so logical. Like there's no mistakes. And so it's not like, you're just kind of cursed with having to like, gain weight around our midsection because, the rent is due. It's like that stress was made, our brain doesn't differentiate. If we think stress, we think danger. And we know we're not going to die, that we have to like pay a bill tomorrow, but our brain doesn't know anything different. So it's trying to give us energy to handle it. So it's like, it's all we're doing is we're just putting that sugar, essentially, we're just using it in our muscles versus storing it in our fat. We're using it. And that's what it's meant for.
That's so amazing.
And I think that, now, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. And like you said, the body knows. Like our bodies are made to know. We know what's right for us. But it's putting the brain knowledge, right, and the body knowledge together. Right. And again, that's like how the body keeps the score. Like it's all kind of the same thing, right? Wow.
Well, I think the big thing to me, and this is part of like what I do with people, and I feel like very like tenderhearted and passionate about it. And the fact that it's like, I think a lot of us are kind of like at war a bit with our bodies. Like we think that, our bodies have like betrayed us, or that, people talk about like hating their bodies, or that, it's like, of course, I look at this and I gain weight, and it's like, it's this kind of adversarial relationship. And I feel like A, your body's here to protect you. Like, B, it always tells the truth. And then C, it's like everything it's doing, like its priorities are for you to not die. And if the conditions are correct, to reproduce. Like that's its objectives. So it's like, well, if variety of, these things are happening, it's like there's a reason for it. And again, it's not like because I'm over 40 and now, I just have a slow slide into like, an undesirable existence. It's like your body's trying to do certain things for you to help you to not die and then hopefully to reproduce. And so it's like if we keep looking through this lens, it's so smart, it's so efficient, like it's lazy in some respects. It'll just take the path of least resistance, but it's like, well, it's just useful to know. And so then the more we know, that's my objective for a million years. It's like to help you to understand how your body works so you can have it work for you. So then it's not this like pile of flesh and fluids that feels like a mystery. It's like it is magical, like it is a miracle, but it doesn't need to be a mystery, at least in the areas that you're most focused on.
Right. Yeah. And your message there to me is trust your body. It knows what it needs. Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Now, so what I haven't figured out quite what your method is. And I know that you're going to tell us, but, now you offer like an 8 to 15 pounds a month weight loss. Now, I myself have given up on the diet industry. I don't believe that any diet, yes, if you want to lose weight, you can follow a diet. But the reality is your body will lose the weight if you do the right thing. And diets to me are not right. So what do you offer? Like, what does your method offer that is different from like all these other quick fix diets and detoxes?
So, and first off, I'll say too, Tina, so 8 to 15 pounds in a month, and that's really our first month. So we have the most weight loss, typically our first week, honestly. But the people that I work with, so I have a 5-week program or a 13-week program, but I will say consistently, there are a lot of people that lose around 2 pounds a week. So that's a lot. Like, so going forward after that first month, people can still be well over a pound, close to 2 pounds a week. Like, so this is my disclaimer. And essentially, like the more weight you have to lose, the easier that is. And the more, the more male you are, the easier that is. So the less weight we have to lose and the more we are women, that's a little harder or lighter on one end of the scale. But I would say what's different is that I call it a mitochondrial reconstruction. Like that's what's different. So meaning that we create this different metabolic underpinnings. And when that's in place, it takes 9 to 10 days to get into a fat burning mode. Once you're there, some of the markers are less hunger, no cravings, more energy, better sleep, better moods, slowed aging, which is like not what we're going to like, tomorrow, I look like this, easier weight loss, harder weight gain. But the whole thing with it is that once you're situated, why this is different is that we change how you work. So then it's like, now this is your body. Like you still have to do things to both deepen the mode. I'll just give you a few timelines that I hope are interesting. At 3 weeks, we're experiencing 80% of the benefits that fat burning offers. At 6 months, we're experiencing 90%. And at a year plus, we're experiencing 100%. So why this is different is because we create the ability to use our fat for energy. And so what ends up happening is it's easy to eat less. It's easy to go for these long stretches without food, which is where we're slowing aging. which is where the body is healing itself. This is where we're warding off like mutant cells, like cancerous cells. We don't have cravings. So when we're faced with like chocolate, pizza, you know, whatever else might be like so our favorite, we have carb feasts even. So it's like, you know what? Today is Tuesday. My carb feast is on Thursday. I can hang in there. I'm going to have that on Thursday. It's going to be great. And this like resets hormones. Maybe that's another piece that's different. Actually, I'll talk more about that in just a second. So we're not beholden to these favorites, you know, these treats. We're not having this war again. Oh, I want it, but I don't want it. We're just so much calmer about it because we don't have cravings. We have an abundance of energy. So it's not like we're, you know, living on fumes, feeling weak. Also, what's different? Insulin is such a consequential hormone for health, but also for weight. So most diets potentially reduce carbohydrates, reduce calories, and often have people eating small meals frequently. The downside to that is that essentially you're creating a situation where you have insulin in your system frequently. Why that matters
because your
is
digestive system is constantly working. Right? When
your
you're eating that way,
system,
like when you're eating small, maybe there's a lag in the call here, but when you eat constantly like that, then your digestive system doesn't really have time to really work, right? As soon as it starts to finish, then it gets more, then that burning fire inside us doesn't stop. Am I right?
Yes. And so maybe I think about that regarding healing. Like, so if we're always if we're always using so much energy on digestion, the body just doesn't have the bandwidth to do other things. And then maybe to your point, it's like one thing that could stand potentially to have some repair is our digestive system. So if we're always using it, then we kind of don't give it the chance to be healed by our body's nature when we're just giving it a moment. What was I going to say? But anyway, but insulin stores fat and it blocks our fat from being able to be accessed for energy. So, and this was something that I kind of like, it's like I know these things, but some things it's like, oh, I don't always put two and two together. So insulin, the nature of it is to essentially, it's a transportation hormone. So it moves energy. It either moves it into, keeps it in our bloodstream, puts it in our muscle cells, it stores it, puts it in our liver, stores it in fat cells. And so essentially, the more insulin you have in your system, the more you will store the energy that you have consumed, the fuel that you have consumed. So you can eat the same amount of food as someone else, someone who's insulin resistant, means that they need more insulin to do the same job, or maybe they ate a ton of carbohydrates, or they had a really big meal, more insulin, versus someone who's insulin sensitive, meaning that they have maybe less carbohydrates in their diet. Maybe they are set up to use their own fat. They will require less insulin. And by the nature of that fact alone, they will store less of their calories as fat. And so it's like same meal, same like individual for all intents and purposes, but different relationship to one hormone. So there's that. And then essentially, if we're eating small meals frequently, which again, this is what a lot of diet or weight loss approaches do, you're keeping, not only are you using your digestive system frequently, but you're also keeping insulin in your system frequently. And so the other side to why we don't want that in our system, in addition to health things, is that it blocks us from being able to use our own fat for energy. So it's like we're either running on food or we're running on fat. And it's like you can't do both at the same time. And so that's what I would say, like the biggest. So we we set up your body to work differently. And as a result of that, you can do different things and your body just works differently. So then it's like, um, and people say it's like, oh my God, I'm not hungry, or I got so much more full on so much less food. Like this is nuts. Like this is like a head trip. And so with traditional diets, even just the insulin fact, it's like you're just fighting against the tide. It's like when you're running on sugar, you're hungry frequently, you're craving carbohydrates. So what most people think is this is hard. I have to go hungry if I want to lose weight. I can't eat the things that my body is like, my brain is yelling at me to, consume. But when you're situated differently, it's like you don't have the same experience. And all of the things that you're experiencing are so conducive to weight loss and to improved health.
Yeah, I could see that. And I mean, I don't really want to discuss diets, right? Because I think everyone has to figure out what works for them. The only thing
Yep.
that like I mean, there's so much to what you just said, right? Because every body is built different. Everybody's going to break down different, right? But I mean, we have to generalize to know what works. Like I did intermittent fasting myself for over 2 years, right? Like where I would eat before 7, and sometimes earlier, and then I wouldn't eat again until 10:30 in the morning. And I didn't lose any weight, but I continued because I felt good, right? I didn't miss the breakfast. I didn't miss my morning food, and snacking at night was really never good for me. So it didn't harm me. Until I went for a blood test and my doctor said, okay, your liver doesn't like the intermittent fasting. And I was like, what the hell does my liver know? Like it's doing less work, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I don't really get how the body works. And then she said, the way your liver is breaking down the food that it is getting, you are actually creating more sugar in your body than what you should be. And I was like, okay, so I didn't know that that's what intermittent fasting was doing to me, which explained why I wasn't losing weight. But at the same time, I wasn't doing it for the weight. I was doing it just to stop the cravings and like just to eat less. And, so I didn't know that that's how it worked. I didn't know that, the liver would be, I mean, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I didn't even think, I was thinking more about the cravings and it would stop that. Now, I was going to say something else about that. Oh no, it just completely left my brain. So anyway, I didn't know all this, right? And now I kind of feel, and when I said that to the doctor that I didn't really get that, she said that it's not that intermittent fasting doesn't work. What she said was, as we age, our body works differently, right? Our metabolism slows down. Of course, I'm going through the perimenopause stage. Our hormones, like my hormones right now, they're not level because of the change. And so that's probably, I mean, they don't know. I mean, there's probably no way for them to know unless they, studied me for 6 months. But, there's no way to know. And so they think that that's what it was, because there's so many different things going on that's how it was affected. So now this intermittent fasting, I still like it. I mean, I still wish I would do it, but I do try to eat like more in the morning. Like I try to eat a little bit earlier, but I feel now like I don't want breakfast, which is so weird for me. That used to be my favorite meal of the day. Right. And so now I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to eat. So I usually just have fruit. So I don't know if that's the best thing for me. Like if I've already got a lot of sugar in my body and now I'm going and I'm putting sugar in, that could be good, right?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
I
But
wouldn't
I
think
mean,
so.
and we're not here to talk about my issues. I just, when you were explaining that, I was like, okay, but it still doesn't answer my question about the sugar and the intermittent fasting. But, I know that that's just a bunch of like research that I need to do, because I know like what you eat and what I eat, it's going to affect us differently, right? You and I could have the exact same food for 2 weeks. You might lose weight, I might gain weight, or nothing might happen for both of us. Like, there's no way to know because our bodies are so different.
Well, I'll say this, Tina. This is my opinion. In many respects, I think that we might be coming from a different place, but for all intents and purposes, unless something is like radically different in either one of us, for the most part, we're all pretty similar. So we can start at different places, but we're all kind of made to work the same way. So it's like, again, so it doesn't mean that different people don't need different considerations based on where they are. But in my opinion, we can all kind of get to the same place based on what we do. So,
of course, right.
So yes. Yep. So yes to like having a consideration based on where someone is beginning. And I think this is my little like Instagram fitness influencer rant right here. I personally think what I eat in a day posts are like utterly bullshit. Like I can't get over how useless they are for like a casual observer. So typically when we look at, some like fit, like semi-professional athlete, CrossFitter, when we follow them because we like their physique perhaps, or we like what they share about their lifestyle, or they're, inspiring to us in some capacity. And when they share what they eat in a day, whomever it is, it's so misleading because that body functions differently based on what they do. And one just like teeny little thing that I hope like helps anyone that listens to this. When you lift weights, I hope we all lift weights like someday soon and forever. But the more you lift weights, the more muscle mass you have, the more insulin receptor sites you have, the more place you have to put sugar, to put energy. And the nature of lifting weights, potentially however intensely you're doing this, however often you're doing it, will tend to have an increased need for carbohydrates. Plus, insulin is actually a really great muscle building hormone. It has like a bad rap for weight loss, for weight gain, and for health, but it's also like, in addition to testosterone, it's actually like the best muscle building hormone if we're using this strategically. So when we look at someone who's very lean, who's super muscular, who works out hours a day and shows us their like, acai berry bowl and 2 pieces of toast with peanut butter, and then I had half an avocado, my like 40 meals that totaled like 3,000 calories. And it's just like, it's so confusing if we don't have that additional lens of who am I, like how do I operate, what do I do regularly, where am I going, not what am I maintaining. So I think that once again, we're all roads can lead to Rome, but where we're starting can be radically different.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes sense. That does. Yeah. Because I think once we get to a certain level of, I'll call it health, right? Where moving forward means we get better, not right. Because I mean, we're always getting better, but when you have weight to lose, right,
Yep.
you need to get to a certain level before you can get, like the bodybuilder body, or the, like it doesn't just happen. Like you have to lose the weight. And then once you lose the weight and you get your body functioning to a point where it can now gain the muscle or gain the, so it's an entire, that's where I get the lifestyle change, right? It's not, I'm not working towards being a life bodybuilder. I'm working towards, working towards it, right? Like I have to get to this level before I can get to that. Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I mean, when we talk body, I mean, let's face it, when we talk how the body works, we could be here for hours, right? Because there's so much to know. Our bodies are amazing, amazing machines, right? And so we can't know everything. First of all, this is one thing that I have learned, because every time you think, oh wow, I'm so amazed at how the body works, something else comes at me like, oh my God, I didn't know we could do that, right? Like, so I think we know food, diets, you know, that's how we fuel our body, but there's also other things to what's the word I'm looking for, like to understand, right? It's not, I mean, yes, it's the food, but it's also the other things that our body needs.
Yeah.
Right. And like, yes, we know the basics, the movement, the food, the vitamins and supplements. Like, we know that we need that stuff. But what we don't fully understand is what happens when we have all that stuff. Right. And what works for who. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I want to ask you a million more questions, honestly. You know, so we might have to do this again, because I think, you know, just knowing and understanding how, because intermittent fasting, I mean, that's a 40-minute conversation alone, because there's so much to know about it, you know. And I know, like, when I did it, it wasn't about, you know, I didn't watch my calories or watch my food intake as much as I focused on, we're not eating between this time. Right. And I didn't do, like, it was what, 12 hours. I think it was about 12. It wasn't quite 16. I know that. So it was about, you know, 12 to 15 hours was what I was doing. Right. And I know that, you know, obviously there's the extended fast, like you talked about in your bio, like 36 to 48 hours. I wouldn't even attempt that. Like, honestly, you know, it's not something I would want to do, but I know that it works. Right. I know that you work, you know, you walk people through it. So you understand that.
Yes. Thank you. But one thing I will say is, like, for all of my opinion, my experience, for all of these different tactics or techniques, I guess, if you're situated in a certain way, it will be not only possible but comfortable. And so that's one thing that I feel very strongly about. Like, intermittent fasting, I feel like, is an amazing tool. Like, I do it every day. I eat once a day, but I didn't start there. And so it's like, and I think for anybody, it's very, like, we kind of hear about, you know, the the concentrated thing. This is the thing to do. You know, it has these benefits, but it's like, well, what about all of the stuff to do before we can do this, so that our body is really able to utilize our fat? We understand, what do I want to say? Even just like what window works best for us, like, you know, meal frequency. Like, I just think that there's so much that can come before the thing that has the, like, that's the shiny object. You know, it's like, it's good to fast for longer. It's like, well, it does have all these benefits, but if you're running on sugar and used to eating multiple times a day, and you have cravings and you're hungry a lot, or you even have energetic dips, it's like, that's so unreasonable. That's crazy. Like,
So, okay. So yeah, that brings me to ask you, is that something, like, if I just decided today, like, let's say, you know, I have my supper tonight and I decide from starting tomorrow, I'm going to eat one meal a day, and that's going to be at noon, and I'm only going to eat at noon. Now, that meal could be 3,000 calories. It could be 20 calories, you know, whatever it's going to be, but I'm not going to eat now until 12 o'clock every day. I only eat at noon every single day. So you're telling me that my body will probably only burn sugar if I did that. Like, there's a process for me to make it burn the fat and the sugar in those 24 hours.
Your body, if you did not give it food, it would figure out how to burn fat. So, like, because you're designed to do this. So if you were like, you know, even I'm not going to eat tomorrow, like, it would potentially be uncomfortable, but you could do it. So, and the same goes for eating once. So you might be hungry. You normally eat at 10:30. You're going to eat at noon. Maybe you're a little hungry. You eat at noon. Maybe you start to get hungry again at like 4 or 5. It's 9 o'clock. I want to go to bed. Jesus Christ. That's the stuff. So it's like the body's like, where's my sugar? Like I haven't been groomed to comfortably just switch to running on fat. So typically what I hear a lot, what I see a lot is that people make a decision. I'm only going to eat once tomorrow. I'm not going to eat at all tomorrow. I'm going to fast for 10 days. Like people just say like crazy stuff, regardless of where they are. And then what typically happens is they just get uncomfortable. They'll feel lightheaded, they'll feel weak because there's often a mineral imbalance when we have lower levels of insulin and we're not used to it. And our body hasn't insulin takes more energy out of our bloodstream and stores it as either like sugar in our muscles, sugar in our liver, fat in our fat cells. So essentially, the more insulin we have on the regular in our bodies, the higher levels we have, the more hungry we'll be and the less energy we'll have. So if you're from that environment, and then we just take food away, the thing that I wanted to say here is that when insulin lowers, sodium also lowers. And so it's like, that's where headaches come in. That's where weakness comes in. And so it's like, it's a mineral thing, but yet if you know what to do, like this is kind of like, it's both positioning and then it's education. So everyone can burn fat. But what most people do is they just do a jump off the cliff situation. I'm just going to wire my jaw shut. I'm just going to do this. And then they get uncomfortable / feel bad to the tune that it's like they say, screw this. And they eat. And they often eat the stuff that's like highest glycemic, highest sugar, most easily available sugar because the body wants quick fuel. So it ends up just being this like process of like, I want to say it's like it becomes not just worthless, but it becomes counterproductive. So that's what I try to prevent. So it's like, because we're all made to do this, but we just want to do it well. And then when we're situated, we can do it comfortably. We can have this win-win situation. We can have the desire to do it again because it wasn't unpleasant. And now we know how to do it kind of like precisely for us.
Right, exactly. And we want to do it well. But we also want to do it right. And learning what's right is what's the most difficult, right? From my experience. I mean, I've been, around the block a few times. I get it, right? Like there's so many different ways of getting it right, but it's finding that right that we have to like work so hard for, right? I mean, yes, I've been on a million diets, right? I know, right? We all know the concept of losing weight, eat less, do more, right? But at the same time, it's the foods that you're choosing that matter more than eating less, right? We've all seen those pictures where there's, this is 1,000 calories. One is, like it's all, salad and maybe a steak or whatever it is. Or there's the bowl of cookies that has 4 cookies in it, right? Like we've all seen those pictures, right? But it's some people don't like steak. Some people, like, I don't like vegetables, in all honesty, right? So in order for me to eat a salad, it's tough, right? I do it because I know it's good for me, but I don't love it, right? So I think that's where that's the hard part for me, right? I mean, okay, you could say to me, Tina, you want to lose weight, you want to, get more energy, you want to do this, eat this for the next 5 days. I'll do it, but not with my heart, right? I'm doing it because it's going to be right. And to me, like, it has to be a little bit of both, right? Like I have to
Yeah,
enjoy what I'm
absolutely.
eating. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and like I
Absolutely.
said, we can like, I'm loving this conversation, but
Yay.
I don't want to overkill the time here.
No, that's
I mean, I
perfect.
do
That makes
have
sense.
many more questions, right? I do
I
have
love it.
many more questions based on that, but I want to get more into what like you do specifically. Now, you are
Yep.
offering an ebook that we're going to add to the show links at the end, and it's called Power and Pain. I want to
Yep.
know what's the connection between like physical pain and fat loss, and how can healing pain create some kind of result when it comes to like fat loss? Or is it connected? Is it related? Like, or am I like just blowing wind up, up the pipe?
That's okay. I think it's not really related, but what I will say, if exercise is something that is useful for, like, actually a lot of the people that I work with don't even exercise. So you don't need to exercise to lose weight. Like, period.
Okay, so I know
Exercise is
that to
you.
be true as like an obese person, right? As an obese person, like obese people do not have to exercise to lose weight, right? We like that's been proven, right? But there comes a time where, like if you're in your last, say, 20 to 40 pounds of weight loss, isn't movement going to help move that along just to get you out of a
Oh yeah.
plateau? Or yeah, okay, so I'm not
I mean, exercise is absolutely helpful, but it is not essential.
okay.
So
I think you're the
I
first
think
person in the world to ever tell me that.
And you know what? Honestly, like I feel like I've worked with many women that were like gym queens, like wanted their, high intensity boot camp, like just like let's have a sweat fest and like kill ourselves. That is actually often not useful. Like that will jack up cortisol, and with it adrenaline, it'll reinforce a sugar burning mode. So you can use, like, I think high intensity intervals can be great if used strategically. um I'm a huge fan of walking and lifting weights, but again, it's like you don't, consistency will, like, take you to another land, but it's not essential for weight loss. I think it's essential for like robust health. I think that the fastest way to feel old is to get weak. So therefore, the best way to stay feeling youthful is to stay strong. Um,
I
and then
get
I
that.
also
Yeah,
think
that
that,
makes sense.
but you know, I'll say here's my crazy, um, two things regarding like, because vanity drives me really. So it's like, you know, I talk about like looking younger, feeling better, living longer, but it's like, hopefully, like if we can have more of what we want, like let's do that.
Mm-hmm.
So regarding, I'll say like, spot reduction, like say we have, when you said like the last however many pounds, I've got this like, we all store weight, we all store fat in certain spots on our bodies, like some people, in their belly, their thighs, like wherever. There's always a spot that's like last to go or the hardest to get into. So two tactics for spot reduction, which I think it is 100% a real thing, which is maybe to your point, like when we're getting near the end of what we want to lose to be wherever we want to be, fasting, slightly longer fasts can actually help with that. And then I would say exercise, like either like a deliberate way to strength train, and or I'm going to say that actually you can spot reduce with having a certain approach to your weightlifting. And so those things, I feel like, if we're having a hard time getting into like the last little bits, fasting can absolutely help. And then strength training and or like exercise. It's just another, like, I talk with my fat burner. So there's 5 parts to fat burning. I didn't say the last one, and that was detoxification.
Oh, I'm
So
sorry. I didn't mean
we're
to cut you off.
all, that's okay. That's all right. There's so much to say, Tina. So we're all strong we're all stronger in one or more of these departments, and we all aren't as strong in others. So one thing I like to emphasize is to leverage our strengths just to offset our weaknesses. So it's like some of us are rock stars with getting to bed, and having super solid sleep. Some of us like, don't use food for emotional reasons, or never drink alcohol, or, are really consistent with our supplements, or some of us like enjoy a beverage every day. Like, it's all different. So my big thing is, because there are so many angles to weight loss, we just don't have to be perfect at all of them. But if we are aware of how to leverage where we are strong and how to offset the stuff that we're not so great, it's like, it just gives us a fighting chance, which I think is awesome.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, I mean, it's different for everyone, but the same for everyone. Right? Like, it's really at the
Kind
end
of.
that's what you said, right? Yeah. I love that. Now, when you kind of touched a little bit about the feeling old, and now, so I'm at the age now where I'm hearing this is part of the age, right? And I'm so tired of hearing it, right? Because I like,
good, yay.
I mean, I look at the number, right? When I look at the number of my age, I remember like when my parents turned this age, and I remember thinking, oh my God, they're so old, right? Now I look at them and they're, 25, 30 years older, and I think now they're old. Like, I see they're old. I mean, they're not old. I think they're doing, they're doing pretty good. Sure, they don't have the energy that they had, 30 years ago, but I look at them and I see their age is older, right? And I don't know that I had a definition of old, right? Because when you're a kid, anybody who's an adult is old, right? And then you become an adult and you think, well, that's not that old. And it's kind of the same now that I'm in that age group where, like menopausal for women, right? So 50s, like, and I look at my parents, what is old? Like, really, what does feeling old really mean? Right? Because, like, you always heard, oh, it's just an age, like, it's just a number, you're as old as you feel. Like, what exactly does that mean? I guess that's an opinionated question, right? Because to you, what does that mean? What does feeling old really mean?
Feeling old. I think weak. Feeling old is feeling weak, tired, I would think. I would just say, like, not really like physically able. Um, uh, Feeling fragile, like and that kind of goes along with weakness.
Yeah.
That's what I would say, like
Yeah.
to feel fragile, like in some capacity, that you're like, not, you get impacted, whether that's like, you can't kind of tolerate, I don't know, a variety of environments, or you get sick really easily. But again, that's about health. So the first thing I said is about strength, which is independent of age, and the other one is about health, which is independent of age. So
exactly. So if I came to you and I said, Michaela, I need you to help me, right? I feel old, right? Now you can see me, so you can see what I physically need clearly, right? You can see if I, how I walk, you can see the extra weight, you can see, like by looking at my face, you can, tell that, I need something, right? I'm, physically we look at someone and say, you need to walk more, you need to move your body more, right? That, right? You must have a list of questions though that are like, okay, well, let's start here, right? What do you really need? What do you take for vitamins? Because that's your thing, right? Is let's start off with vitamins and nutrition. Am I right?
well, it's that, like, I just call it like the Holy Trinity. And so it's like, ultimately, it's, if those were your words, like, I feel old, it's like I would ask what that meant to you, so it's like, whatever that indication was for you that you wanted to change. So that could involve like really specific recommendations, But in general, that holy trinity, my term of like diet, and what I'm really talking about there is either like a lower carbohydrate diet or a lower glycemic diet, which means that you're just having more complex carbohydrates, carbohydrates that have more fiber. So we're either having slightly lower carbohydrates and potentially slightly higher fat, or we're having slightly more carbohydrates and slightly lower fat. And hopefully both groups are having a good amount of protein. And then we're exercising, and like, so that to me at the bare minute, like walking and lifting weights, and that doesn't have to be anything complicated or super lengthy, but doing some sort of like resistance work with consistency, and then vitamins and minerals. And so it's like, so I feel like everyone needs to do that. And so exactly how that takes shape, I think could be dependent on the individual, but then you fine tune. And so it's like, do not pass go. Like if you want to not feel old, feel better, like be healthier, like bottom line, those are the three things to do. And then it's like, you know, I'd like to lose weight, but I've been eating in a higher carbohydrate, more frequent meal diet. It's like, well, all right, like, you know, then maybe I think fat burning is like one-stop shopping really, for all of this, whether it's weight loss or health or slowing aging. But anyway, so that's kind of the foundation, and then adjusting it based on the individual's preference, their desires. And then it's like maybe there are more specific things that would be suitable for you in your goals. But that's kind of like a foundational necessity, I feel like, for everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense. And I'm actually glad that you answered it that way, because I think there's too many, like we want a quick answer, right? We want a quick fix all the time, but we need to understand. And I think we really need to, you know, I guess understand and embody. Nothing is anything that's too easy. It's too good to be true. Right. And we're hearing more and more about the, how do they say, GLP-1 medicine. And, you know, like, I'm not saying that like what you're saying is hard or difficult. Right. Like, I think once you get into the routine of, you know, your health, you know, rituals, right, then it becomes easy, right? It might start off difficult depending on where you are right now, but as you know, you make it work for yourself. Right. And I think that's what this comes down to. Right. And as any habit, any, you know, lifestyle change, right. You have to make it easy for yourself, you know, and that's, it has to be on the individual, right. We have to, like, you know, own that. Yeah,
definitely.
I have one more question for you.
Yes.
If any of our listeners are feeling stuck or inflamed, tired, discouraged, what is the first small step that you would have them take today?
And so, Tina, do you mean discouraged with about weight? Discouraged about how they feel?
I don't want to go weight. So I'm just thinking with their health in general, whatever is ailing them.
So honestly, like, first I was going to say sleep, but I would say truthfully, like if with their health and they want to like feel some big change, like a pharmaceutical grade multivitamin, like that can be such a game changer for people. It is a game changer, but that uh that is something that essentially it's like, I'll ask Tina to leave the company, or my link for the company that I've been using for 20 years that I use with my fat burners, but essentially a pharmaceutical grade multivitamin. And all that means is that that supplement company has voluntarily decided to adhere to the same standards that a drug company has to. And what that means is it's guaranteed to be free from contaminants. What's on the bottle is actually in the bottle, and supplements aren't regulated, so they don't have to do that. That it's guaranteed to actually break down. Most supplements are made for shelf life, and that means that a lot of them pass through us versus actually break down to get where they're going. Pharmaceutical grade, again, needs to break down within 30 minutes. And then it's like the next level is you look for a company that has science behind it, that they do research on their formulations, that they've done studies on their formulations. And then lastly, you try it and you see how you feel. Because Tina, you said something about in terms of, you didn't use the word experiment, but ultimately that is what we have to do. We get educated. We kind of establish like this might be a good choice. This could be helpful. And then we have to do it. We have to check it out. And for, a supplement, our blood supply gets replenished every 3 months. So if you're someone that it's like, I want to see what my zinc levels, my vitamin D, like I want to look at my whole profile, give yourself 3 months and then you will see what this is actually doing to you. But in the meantime, within a month, you should feel typically more energy. You don't get sick as much. You feel better. And I've had people that it's like, I don't take my blood pressure medication anymore. I got off of this medication that I've been wanting to. Again, not a doctor, not a scientist, but it's like when the body is supported, especially with something like that, that's going to reduce inflammation, that's going to help heal the body with basically vitamins and minerals that are the tools that our cells need to heal us. We just tend to feel better, look better. So that can be it's as simple as taking a pill, but it's one that's not going to burden your liver or give you adverse side effects, in the short or the long term. But I would say that's probably the most powerful thing. And then I would say there's so many things. There's so many things to do, but getting more sleep, getting to bed earlier, and I would also say again, I help people change their physiology so that they function better. But I would say start with a multivitamin and then maybe 2 additional things. It's like the earlier you go to bed, the more you will have more human growth hormone released into your body. That it starts earlier in the night, and it's like the action really happens 10, 11, 12. We want to be in bed at least an hour before that. Human growth hormone is considered our fountain of youth. It helps with weight loss, healthy testosterone levels, which helps with muscle mass and confidence and libido, staves off anxiety and depression. Testosterone is a great hormone to have in a healthy amount. It's considered our fountain of youth. It staves off illness and disease. And then I would say mitigating stress. So what we talked about earlier, you feel a pop of stress that is meant to give you quick fuel to fight or to flee. So pump your arms, do jumping jacks, do squats, squeeze your butt cheeks, flutter your legs, use that energy really quickly. And then the flip side of that is to keep focusing on shit that feels good, stuff that is fun, whether that's I'm looking at a comedy clip. But the more pleasure you have in your life, the better you will function and feel, the better life will be. We are really the purpose of life is joy, hands down, really. And so I would say that's the biggest umbrella. If you want to feel better, have more pleasure and less stress.
Yeah. Not that that's an easy task, right?
Yes, correct.
We're all so used to being busy and stressed that it's a hard switch to make, but I do agree with you. That is the switch we need to make. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for this, Michaela. This has been great. We definitely went over our time, but this has been like, and I know, like I said, I have so many more questions that I want to ask you because there's just so much that you're giving us here, so I mean, you and I will definitely be chatting again, but thank you so much for sharing what you have shared with us today.
Thank you for listening to Confidence in Bloom, where we celebrate the amazing, brilliant, and beautiful women you already are. You don't have to look like a movie star or a supermodel. And spoiler, they don't even look like that. You are enough, worthy of unconditional love, especially from yourself. We pour love out to everyone around us, so it's time we gave that same love to you. If you're ready to step into your power and boost your confidence, I'm offering personalized coaching. 3 focused sessions designed to help you build your confidence, define your personal brand, and start creating your own signature style. Remember, chic comes in every shape and size, and the most important thing to believe in, yourself. Want to be a guest here on Confidence in Bloom? Reach out to me on Instagram at infobloomstyling, email tina@infobloomstyling.com, or visit the Divas That Care Network website. And until next time, keep blooming confidently.
Thanks for listening. This show was brought to you by Divas That Care. Connect with us on Facebook, on Instagram, and of course on divasthatcare.com, where you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss a thing.